Locho sampo pagyo trashipa tuche tempe tinle yarngonda pelge drolor zambe zeparche palden lame shabla solvade Omo a guru vajra dara suma timonisha sane karm Uta varda nishri badra varsa manya sarva siddhi hum Om Guru Vajradar Suma Timo Nisha Sane Karm Uta varda nishri badra varsa manya sarva siddhi hum Om Guru Vajradar Suma Timo Nisha Sane Karm Uta varda nishri badra varsa manya sarva siddhi hum Pakyuke kudan dagi lu, pakyuke sundan dagi nga, pakyuke tudan dagi yi, ten yerme chikto jingi lu. Makyuke kudan dagi lu, makyuke sundan dagi nga, makyuke tudan dagi yi, ten yerme chikto jingi lu. Om Muni Muni Mahamuni Shakyamuni Swaha Om Muni Muni Mahamuni Munye Swaha Om Muni Muni Mahamuni Shakyamuni Swaha. Sangye chodan soge chonam la chanchu pardo dani kyapso che dagi chushe gibe sonamge drola pinchre sangye drupa resho Sangye chodan soge chonam la chanchu pardo dani kyapso che dagi jinso gibe sonamge drola pinchre sangye drupar Sangye chedan tsogi chonamla chancho pardo dani kyapsu chi dagi jinso gibe sonamgi drola pinchira sangye druparisho. In the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, I take refuge until enlightenment. Through the practice of generosity and the other perfections, may I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. So, the text starts after the first verse of praise to the Guru. It says, Gyawe sunrab kungi nimbotun gyase tambar namgi ngaparam kalden tarda namgi chungote jidar nushin dagi shebar cha. Is where Lama Tsongkhapa first starts making the commitment about what is he going to talk in the text. In the next verse is giving the incentive to listen correctly and saying to whom he aims these teachings. So basically it says, I shall try to explain as best as I can the essential meaning of the victorious one's teachings, the path praised by all the holy victors and their children, the gateway of the fortunate ones desiring liberation. Here, Lama Tsongkhapa basically saying, what am I going to talk about? And there are 3 points. Okay, so the first thing is renunciation, love towards oneself. That renunciation by itself is the essential meaning of all Buddha's teachings. Whenever we say the victorious ones, means Buddha's teachings. Okay, so there are two ways of reading this verse. The first one is saying, okay, that renunciation is the base of all Buddha's teachings. Like, it doesn't matter if it's Mahayana teachings, Hinayana teachings, everywhere, on the basis of that practice, on the basis of that path, is developing love towards oneself. So it's the essential meaning of the victorious teachings, so of all Buddha's teachings. In the essence, we have always love towards oneself. That's in the basis of everything. Then, I'm also going to explain the path praised by all the holy victors and their children. What is the path that is praised by all the bodhisattvas? In Tibetan I have here. Gyase gebe lamla yitempe. Sorry. Yeah, the path praised by all the holy victors and their children. Yeah, this we can translate in two ways. We can translate the path praised by all the holy victors and their children, or the path praised by all the children of the victorious. Tibetan we can translate actually in both ways. But anyhow, the point here is bodhicitta. The path of great love and compassion towards others is the path that is praised by all the bodhisattvas. So first I'm going to show renunciation, second I'm going to show bodhicitta, and third, the gateway of the fortunate ones desiring liberation. It means what is the door that opens the path to liberation is the correct view of reality. Because basically, without the realization of emptiness, without the correct view of reality, it's not possible to get out of samsara. So what am I going to talk about here? Lama Tsongkhapa says I'm going to talk about renunciation, or the definitive emergence, which is the essential meaning of the victor's one's teachings. About bodhicitta, that is the path praised by all the holy victors and their children. And about the correct view of reality, that is the gateway of the fortunate ones desiring liberation. Lama Tsongkhapa also says, I shall try to explain as best as I can. This has two meanings. One is what we say in Tibetan, King Kyunga. King Kyunga means like having an attitude of humbleness. Not showing like, I am the one, the best one, I'm going to explain in the most perfect way as no one has ever done before. It's the other way around. It's like, okay, I'm starting in a humble way. If we look like also when Kanchen Rinpoche, when Rinpoche wrote Self-Healing number 3, in the beginning of Self-Healing number 3, in the introduction there is, I am no one, I am just one very simple, poor Lama, I don't understand anything, I'm just here to share you some of my thoughts, like put in a very humble way. But this is very traditional actually. If we look to Shantideva in the Bodhisattva Charavatara, he says, I'm not writing this to benefit anyone, I'm just doing it to familiarize my own mind and so on. This is very common. So it's having an attitude of humbleness in the beginning, showing us also the importance of having an attitude of humbleness. Together with that, it's also because Lama Tsongkhapa is saying, I'm going to explain something very profound and vast, but only in very few words. It says, in the best way as I can, it means I'm going to put in very few words something that is very deep and very vast at the same time. Okay? And at the same time, the other way of reading it is saying, all the three, renunciation, bodhicitta, and correct view of reality, all the three together are the essence of all Buddha's teachings, are the path that is praised by all the bodhisattvas, and are also the gateway to liberation. So, we can read these verses one by one as referring to renunciation, bodhicitta, and correct view of reality, or we can read to each one of them as talking about all the three main aspects of the path together. Okay? If we go on a more detailed explanation at this point, we can go on explaining why and how the three main aspects of the path are the essence of all Buddha's teachings. But we're not going to do that right now. It's too long to go on that details right now. Okay? But basically, all Buddha's teachings, they bring us to the path to enlightenment, which if they are divided into the teachings, which is called the three nests, of which the Tripitaka, the Denasum, which is all the teachings regarding morality, concentration, and wisdom. And then if we take all the sutras of Buddha, They are all condensed. The essence of everything is inside the teachings of Lamrim, the gradual path to enlightenment. And in all the Lamrim teachings, together, they are put together into the three main aspects of the path. So, actually, within this teaching, all the essence of every teaching of Buddha is inside here. So it's quite a lot. So Lama Tsongkhapa says, I'm going to try to explain it in the best way as I can, which means I'm going to put it in few words. I'm going to make it short and simple. I'm going to try to share with you the essence of all these teachings in a simple way. The second verse, Lama Tsongkhapa brings to us, at the same time he's giving us an incentive to listen, but mainly he's showing to whom is he talking. Tibetan we call Chetu Chawe Ducha, which means the specific disciple to whom this teaching was given. So I am writing this, I'm talking about these three main aspects of the path, but whom do I want to speak to? What are the characteristics that you must have in order to take the greatest advantage of these teachings? And he says, Kanda sibe de la macha shin del jurtun cha jirsun pai gyawa gebe lam la itempe kalne de da taw yigi nyun. Those who are not attached to the pleasures of samsara, those who strive to make this life of freedom and endowments meaningful, who entrust themselves to the path pleasing the victorious ones, these fortunate ones listen closely. So, let's see if we are in this category or not. Are we part of those to whom Lama Tsongkhapa actually is giving these teachings? Are we attached to the pleasures, the mundane pleasures? I would say so. Do we try to make this life meaningful? Up to a certain point. Okay. And do we entrust ourselves on the path that pleases the victorious ones? Up to a certain point, maybe yes. But maybe someone of us may say, oh, but okay, right, the first point, I am out. I have attachment to mundane pleasures, so then I am not ready for it. But let's see exactly how I see at least, okay? So, as Lama Tsongkhapa says, Kanda sibe de la majashin del jurtunya chachirtsunpai gyawa gebe lam laitempe kalde deda tawa yigi nyun. Those who are not attached to the pleasures of samsara, those who strive to make this life of freedom and endowments meaningful, and those who entrust themselves to the path pleasing the victorious ones, these fortunate ones listen closely. Basically, these are the three basic characteristics that we must have in order to listen to the three aspects of the path. To listen about renunciation, we must not be fully attached to the pleasures, to the mundane pleasures, which means, and also here it's translated as pleasures of samsara, it's like pleasures of existence, the mundane pleasures, no? So it means basically not being a slave of pleasures, of money, of power, and so on. In other words, it means not living only for this. Do we have attachments? I would say many. Do we like a good food? Do we like pleasures of the body? Do we like when we are recognized by someone? I would say yes. But because otherwise, it will be like, okay, in order for you to listen about renunciation, you must first have developed renunciation. That's not going to work. So the point here is basically, in order for you to listen about renunciation, you must first have the openness to listen about renunciation. Otherwise, it's not going to work. Like, for me, it happened different times to be together with people that simply had no openness whatsoever to listen about the subject. Then what we do, better not to talk even about that. It's going to have no effect. So in order for us to be open really to talk about loving ourselves deeply or developing renunciation, we need first to understand and to feel that, okay, pleasures are nice, but they are not the solution. Power, money, and so on, okay, but it's not the solution. I must find something else. That's not the real way. Okay, that's not enough. So this is the basis to listen about renunciation. The second point, those who strive to make this life of freedom and endowments meaningful. The life of freedom and endowments basically means to be free from many different forms of suffering, We are free from being in the lower realms. We are free from having a life of total poverty. We are free from being in a state where we are imprisoned and in constant pain and so on. So basically, we are free from different terrible conditions that exist in the world. We are free from it. Being free from it, in Tibetan, the word used is talwa. Talwa means to have time. In other words, we are free from needing to live for our own survival. That's what we were saying this morning. We don't need only to survive. We can actually make this life meaningful because we have some space. The conditions allow us for that. Okay? It's like any one of us, I believe. Okay? Sure, there may be some exception, but very difficult. If we put ourselves under strong pressure of strong suffering, do we have space for anything else? I don't think so. Like, if we put our hand in the hinge of the door and we close the door, are we going to be able to meditate on the love and compassion for other sentient beings? And importance to practice patience or whatsoever? Maybe after, but at the moment, what do we want? To take the hand out. So this means to have freedom, means not to be in extreme conditions of suffering that do not allow us to have the space to follow our spiritual path. And it's sad to say, but there are way too many people that we can see in this world that are on this condition of having no space whatsoever for the spiritual path because they are overwhelmed by their suffering and survival. So, we are free from that, and we have endowments. Jorwa, what do we have? We own the possibility of being born in the time that Buddha has been here. We have the possibility of receiving these teachings. We have, from our side, the wish and the effort to put them into practice. There are many things, positive things that we own. We have good health, and so on. So we have wonderful things that we own, and terrible things that we are free from. So this is a very special condition. So, in the moment that, do we want to make this life meaningful? Yes. If we want to make this life meaningful, if we are not only worried about survival, this means that we have the basis to listen about bodhicitta. Because if we do not have any wish to make this life meaningful, we simply want to survive in the most pleasurable way as possible, then we have no basis to talk about helping others and making this life meaningful. Okay. And the third point, it refers to entrust themselves to the path, pleasing the victorious ones. Which means I want to follow the same path that all the victorious ones, all the Buddhas of the path have followed. I want to follow the same path. I don't know exactly how is this path. I'm not sure that I can do it right now, but I want to follow this path. This is the basis to listen about the correct view of reality. So basically, what are the conditions that Lama Tsongkhapa is requesting here from us? Not to be a slave from our mundane pleasures, and understand that it's not pleasures that is going to solve everything, but we know no other way around for the moment, but at least we understand that. To feel that we must make this life meaningful, we must use this life in a positive way, and to wish to follow the path of the sages of the past. All the Buddhas and all the sages, whatever path they have followed, I want to follow the same path. So if we have these three qualities, it's the basis for us to listen. So Lama Tsongkhapa said, if you have these three qualities, so to these fortunate ones, because it's very rare to have these conditions, listen closely, listen carefully, listen with attention. In Tibetan it said, Yigi Nyön. Yi means mind, Nyön means listen. So listen with the mind, listen with attention. And here it refers to also abandoning the three faulty containers and developing the six awareness in order to listen to the Dharma teachings. So abandon the three faulty containers means when we listen to a teaching, we should not be like, if we take this container for instance, first of all, if the container is upside down, what happens? You can pour as much water as we want. It's not going to keep anything. This is when we are listening to teachings, but we are or sleeping or thinking completely about something else. We are not present mentally. So we should abandon that. The other one is when we have the right position, but inside it's full of poison. It doesn't matter how much clean water I may pour in, it will become poisoned. Because I have some poison inside. This is when we go to listen to someone and we already have some prejudice. We're listening with anger or with jealousy or miserliness or whatever. When we go to listen with strong mental defilements, strong negative emotions, we pollute the teachings. It doesn't matter what they are. It's like when we go to listen to a friend and we are jealous of the person or whatever. It doesn't matter what the person says. We're always going to listen. We are always going to pollute that words with our own jealousy and so on. So, we should abandon this. And we should also abandon the fact of being like a container. Right position, clean, but with holes. The water goes in and the water goes out. So we need to have attention. We need to have presence. Otherwise, this happened to me a few times. You go listen to the teachings. Oh, so wonderful, so wonderful, so wonderful. Then after, in the end, I don't remember anything. So we need to have presence. And the best way to do that, I believe, is really to apply the teachings to our own reality and put them into practice in the best way as we can. Then we don't forget them. But also sometimes we need to write, we need to listen again, we need to study it also. That's also useful. But it's the fact, most of all, of putting them into practice. And the most important of all when listening is to have the 6 awareness. The 6 awareness are to see oneself as the patient, to see the guru as the doctor, to see the dharma as the medicine, to see putting the teachings into practice as taking the medicine in order to get cured, to recognize one's own ability to get cured, one's own potential of healing, and to recognize that the process of healing is gradual and long term. So, it's like if I am a patient and I feel sick and I go to Buddha and I say, "Oh Buddha, please help me, I feel so sick. What do you have? Oh, I am always insatisfied and it doesn't matter what happened. I'm never happy enough. There's always a new problem popping out. I am tired of all of this, Then Buddha comes to us and say, "Oh yes, you are sick. What sickness do I have? The sickness you have is selfishness, which is caused by the virus of ignorance. So can you give me medicine? Yes, here I can give you medicine. Love yourself, love others, have a correct view of reality." But it's not only by reading to the prescription that we can get cured. It's by taking the medicine. Similar to that, we need to put into practice the teachings in order to get cured, not only to listen to it. The fifth point is we must believe in our own potential of cure. I am able to reach enlightenment. I can do it myself. We must believe in our own ability. And the 6th point, our disease is a chronic disease, so it takes time. It's gradual and it takes time. So we need to have constancy in time. Okay? No hurry, but presence, constancy. So with this 6th awareness, then we should go to read the Dharma book, we should go to listen to the teachings, and they make a big difference if we listen with this awareness or not. So what Lama Tsongkhapa is telling us here is like, look, what I'm giving to you is something so precious. Lama Tsongkhapa have received it from Manjushri, have transmitted to his disciples one by one carefully as something so precious. If you know how to see the preciousness and how to take care of it, so please listen carefully. Please put your whole attention into it. It's like in the other verse of Lama Tsongkhapa, in the beginning of the commentary on the completion stage of Griya Samaja, Rimna Saldran, he says, Derjupani kelpa sangmashe, be aware of how fortunate you are of entering here. Lekparsumlagawe shingedang, by reflecting well upon it, you should resplend you should shine with joy. Rapsel Zumbengandan Dempai, and with a beautiful shining smile, radiant smile. Rapsel Zumbengandan Dempai, Naminui Kyon Sumpon Lanyon. Listen carefully, abandoning distraction and the three faulty containers. So we should listen with joy because we are gaining something that is so, so precious. It's so special, actually. And we can see sometimes we take some things that we take for granted and we think is common. And then when we talk to people in a completely different context, we see how actually it's difficult to have this understanding. After some time we get used to the Dharma teachings, we think it's normal. But when we go to a different context, we see how it's not obvious at all. So Lama Tsongkhapa said, listen carefully in order for you to really apply it in your own life. And so please listen with your mind. Yiginyon. Listen with joy. Listen carefully. Okay? The first part about renunciation, it says, Namda ngechung mebar sitsoi dendre tenyer shiwe tamela sila kamba yiken luchena kune chincher tomar ngechung sel. Without a completely pure renunciation, and the word renunciation, actually, it's not the best translation, really. Because ngeba means certainty, jungwa means to emerge. So it's the definitive emergence. It's a definite emergence. It's the certainty that I can get out. So it's the wish for happiness. It's the wish for peace. It's the wish for liberation from samsara. Because the word renunciation gives us the idea of renouncing our pleasure, renouncing giving up something good, and the word renunciation always gives an idea of sacrifice. And here it has nothing to do with sacrifice. It has to do with truly wishing the best for ourselves and recognizing suffering as suffering and wanting to get out of it. In other words, it's to renounce the suffering and the actual causes of suffering. That's the main point. So, it says, there is no way to pacify the attachment that seeks pleasurable effects in the ocean of samsara. Also, by craving for cyclic existing, embodied beings are constantly bound. Therefore, seek renunciation from the very beginning. Imagine this following metaphor. We are in a prison. But we don't know how it is to be out of the prison. We were born in the prison. We have no memory whatsoever of what it means to be out of prison. So someone may say to us, oh, if you go out of the prison, it's so nice and so on, but do we truly trust? Sometimes we meet someone that is supposed to come from outside the prison, but we have never seen him outside because we never went outside. So is it really like that? I don't know. And when we talk about getting out of the prison, sure, there are some aspects of the place where I am that I don't like. But some things are good. I have some other cellmates that I like them. Sometimes I get beaten up, sometimes it's difficult, but sometimes it's also good, They make a very nice soup every Tuesday. And then when we start talking about getting out of prison, you need to make a tunnel, then you need to go down very deep, and then you need to go up the mountain, stay a few days without eating, and we say, no, it's enough, here at least I get food. So very often for us the solution looks more difficult than the actual problem, and we simply remain there. This definite emergence means the certainty, the determination to get out of samsara. But it's to recognize that it's not enough just to feel some pleasure, because I am tired of being happy today, then unhappy tomorrow, then one thing is okay, then another thing is not fine, and then in one moment life is very meaningful, in another moment I find no meaning in anything, then it's going in one direction, then it's going in another direction. When everything looks fine, then suddenly something gets out of place. When the work is good, the health is bad. When the health is good, the work is bad, or vice versa, whatever happens. There is always something out of place. And when everything is in place, I make something out of place by myself. I find something that is not good. So I am tired of constantly being in this roller coaster of going up and down and happy and sad and this and that. And then when I look at the pleasures, I know that they are just momentarily, that are not going to really help much. So I want to get out of the cycle completely. Does it take time? Yes. Does it take effort? Yes. Do I know how I'm going to do? Not yet. Do you know when I'm going to get out? I don't know yet when I'm going to get out, but I want to get out. That's the first thing. And sometimes I see an attitude in people that is not the same thing of what I'm talking about, but it's somehow similar. It has some similarity. It is when people don't want to suffer, don't want to be in certain situations, but don't find any more satisfaction in the mundane pleasures that they can have. And then there is a moment in which the person may say, I want to die, because I find no more meaning in life. The good things, I don't care about them. The bad things, I don't want them anymore, so better I die. I'm sorry to say, but it doesn't solve anything. If dying would solve the suffering of samsara, let's die altogether. We make a mass suicide and then it's done. But it's not like that. I truly do not believe in it. When we die, things simply continue. It's like going to sleep and waking up the next morning with total amnesia. We continue to suffer. Our defilements are still there. So, this wish sometimes that some people may have, I want to die, which is not really the meaning I don't want this life anymore. Sometimes it's just the meaning like, I find no solution. Renunciation is something similar, but in which we directly say, I find no more pleasure in samsara. I don't want any more to be in this constant cycle of suffering and mental defilements. I must get out of it. I truly wish to be constantly in a state of peace, of joy, of satisfaction, of balance, of stability. And I believe that is possible. Innerly, developing internally, I can develop my qualities, and I know that it's possible. The Buddhas of the past have done, I can do it also myself. So when we have the determination to reach such state of peace, that's when we develop our renunciation. That's what we are talking about. It's not like renouncing pleasures of life. That's not it. It's actually renouncing suffering itself. And sometimes we also have, as here Lama Tsongkhapa says, we crave for cyclic existence. We have an attachment for our own life as it is. And we have an identity so strong bound to it. Like we're not able to see us in a different context sometimes. So we need to give up this. We need to say, okay, I can and I wish and I will be free from suffering. And I can get a new identity based on that. I can continue myself in that way. So it's something that, in other words, is like a deep and strong desire to get out of suffering in a deep way. Not just momentary suffering, the actual suffering, the suffering of change, the all-pervasive suffering. It's like really getting out of the cycle of samsara, having this deep and strong wish to reach the state of peace. That's what renunciation, the definite emergence is all about. Okay? Well, if we have this wish, then we will act in accordance. Otherwise, we just remain where we are. Right? So let's go to the next verse, which explains how to do that. There you go. Another 2 verses of renunciation. And they say, Del giorni che zela l'ome pa yela kombe di nan shedo le dremelo korwe dung enam yang sampe chime nan shedo. Tedar kombe korwe pensola yemi keje tsame mi keshi nin sengundo tarpa tönirlo chungna teze nge chung keba la. Freedom and endowments are difficult to find and life is short. By gaining familiarity with this, attraction to appearances of this life is eliminated, which means this life is so rare and so special. The opportunities that we have in this life is not something that we can gain easily. That's why it's called freedom and endowments. We have already talked a little bit about it before, but if we make it briefly, we just think about this world, human beings. Let's keep aside all the insects and animals and all other forms of life that exist, that we could be reborn into them, but let's just think about human beings. There is supposed to be 7 billion human beings in this planet. From this 7 billion, how many have the conditions we have? How many people are there that are not able to eat well? It's said to be about 2.5 billion people live below the poverty line, which means don't have enough food. That's way too many, but that's what it is. Then we have another 2.5 billion, more or less, of people that live just above the poverty line, which means just live for their own survival. Nothing more, nothing less. Then we have another people that are just above. They would have some more possibilities, but anyhow become slaves of their own survival. So work, pleasure, try to find solution for problems, and like this the life goes on. And the point is that in all these conditions, people don't have time and don't have space in themselves for a spiritual development. It's just about survival, somehow. And trying to live their life in the best way as they can, but life just goes on. Instead of using this life in a meaningful way, using it as a tool in order to develop oneself for this and for next life, in order to be of benefit for others, is something that very rarely it comes. So if we really look, how many are there that materially have all they need? Physically have a relatively good body. Mentally have a relatively stable mind. I say relatively because you understand. That is not slave of the material things. That has the wish to do something more deeply. There are so many people that wish to follow something spiritually but don't even know where to start from. So many people that are totally alone from that point of view. Many people, very nice people in the world, but they only finally live in their own sort of survival, that's all. Some of them surviving in a more simple way, others surviving in a more fancy way, but that's it, no? Finally, one is taking care of a little old car, the other one is taking care of his collection of cars, but very often it's just living between the survival and creating needs that we don't need and creating things in order to keep the needs. It's like the saying, I work in order to pay the car, I use the card in order to go to work. It's like living in this cycle constantly. And then what? Life finishes. How many people are there that want to follow a spiritual path but have no guidance? How many people are there that look for guidance, find the guidance, but the guidance is wrong? And I'm not saying that Buddhism is the only way out. But are very few those that have all the right material conditions, that wish to follow a spiritual path, that find someone that guides them correctly on a spiritual path and has the energy to apply it and practice it. It's so rare. We just think about the people around us. How many people are there that have all these conditions? Very few. So actually we have conditions that are extremely difficult to get. So, wonderful. And why are they so precious? Because through these conditions, they allow us to develop our qualities, to eliminate our defilements gradually, and to make ourselves a better person in this and for the next lives. There's nothing else that can give us this possibility. We can have any amount of money, nothing can make us a better person other than ourselves, with these beautiful conditions we have. So, the point is that once we have these wonderful conditions, how long are they going to last? When are we going to die? I don't know. We can die like this. Sometimes we have people that are very healthy and people that are very sick, and then suddenly the healthy person just poof, nice. Then the sick person gets better, and sooner or later will die also. I was just thinking before about dedicate also for a friend in Brazil. She has a sickness, wonderful girl, young, beautiful, doing a beautiful job. Everything looks nice somehow. Then she gets a sickness that suddenly, it's like just walking during the day, suddenly, poof, she becomes tetraplegic. And then it may last for between 1 week and 6 months. Then slowly she needs to learn again how to walk and how to do everything again. We don't know when things happen, what happened, how can happen. None of us. Really. Life can just change so rapidly at any moment. So, and that's okay, that's impermanence, that's fine. The problem is not dying. The problem is not living well, not using well this precious opportunity we have. That's the true problem. Because we're all going to die. Okay, someone died. Okay, so what? In the sense that I'm sorry. I'm not sorry that a person died necessarily. I'm sorry about the suffering of the person. I'm sorry that a person maybe didn't live the life in the best way as the person could. But dying is normal. The problem for ourselves, we don't need to be sorry that we are going to die. We need to be sorry of living a life that is such great opportunities and not using these opportunities in the best way. That's what is really sad about it. To die, it's okay. So we have such a special opportunity. We must use it. We cannot just pass our lives, busy with little stupid things. That's what Lama Tsongkhapa says here in a more gentle way. But he's saying, when freedom and endowments are difficult to find and life is short, by gaining familiarity with this, attraction to the appearances of this life is eliminated. What are the appearances of this life? All the little problems and wishes of this life. When we see the preciousness of this opportunity, and when we see that life is going to end soon, all these little stupid things that we give so much value that are only of this life, they lose value. Say, okay, I'm not going to pass my time with this person said this, that person said that, and here and there, and I'm jealous, I'm this, I'm complaining. If we just listen to our complaints, we are so boring. We are there repeating the same stuff always. Just take 1 year of complaint, even less, 6 months is enough. And then you repeat it for the next time. You already just make a loop, and then you have the whole rest of life gone done, It's very simple. It's like if you need to do programming, don't need to invent many codes, just take a few weeks of complaint. Then it's just change names in between, and then there we have for the rest of the life. Isn't it enough what we have already done in that sense? We want to continue to follow up and to follow the jealousy and the envy and the little suffering here, and that person did that, and I didn't get this, and I didn't get the right attention here, and too much, enough. Because we are going to die. One friend of mine, he used to say, Shimo gonna kiure. If you don't need to die, happy you if you don't need to die. In a sense like, if you live your life without thinking about consequences of the future and not preparing yourself for the future, happy you if you don't need to die. Sooner or later we die. And then when we die, all these little things, they finish here and we continue. And we have not used our life to cultivate what continues. That's what is really worrying about. So we must really use this opportunity in the best abilities that we can. Also because, as the text continues, it brings about the next life, and it says, by thinking over and over again that actions and their effects are unfailing, and repeatedly contemplating the miseries of cyclic existence, attraction to the appearance of future lives are eliminated. In other words, first meditate on the preciousness of this life, then meditate on impermanence, then we have the law of karma, then after that we have the general and specific sufferings of samsara, and after that comes refuge. Okay? But it doesn't matter where I may be reborn. Who can assure me that everything is going to be fine? Let's say I have a wonderful life. I take a samsara holiday and get reborn in the God realm, where there is no physicals, no manifested suffering. Nice. But sooner or later the vacation ends, and then there I am once again. Like even if we are reborn into Shita, wonderful, beautiful, pure land, where Buddha Maitreya is, it's a good opportunity to practice Dharma, but it's not a solution to get out of suffering. So, we must use this opportunity in the best way as we can, and even if we have a good rebirth, that's not enough. We want to get completely out of samsara, completely out of the cycle of suffering. That's the wish that we should develop in this. That's what we call with this definite emergence, this strong wish to get out of suffering. And together with using this life in a meaningful way. Okay, if things go in a way, wonderful. We want our career to go in a certain way, it follows that way, very nice. But on the other side, if the career doesn't go in the way we want, that's fine. Okay, you have another life, try again. In this life, you wanted to get married and have the whole life in the same marriage, then you were divorced. Okay, no problem, try again in the next life, And then we have thousands of opportunities. But the important thing is that as we get to the end of this life, we have not spoiled it, we have not wasted. We were able to die a better person than the one that was born. We are able to cultivate our qualities and not our defilements. That's what really matters. All the rest, fine. In one way, in another way, here, there, okay. Do the best that you can to get what you want, but that's not the point. It's like having a priority that goes beyond, above all the other mundane priorities that we have. I'm not saying today you need to take them away. You like to have your nice house with a beautiful job, nice family and everything else. That's all wonderful. I'm not against any of it. Keep them. But put one priority above. That is, develop your qualities, abandon your defilements, become a better person, help others, develop wisdom. That's what we need to do. In other words, renunciation, bodhicitta, correct view of reality. But it's a priority that comes before all of the rest. If we're able to do that, it's beautiful. And then we need to understand that to develop renunciation is something pleasurable, it's not something of suffering. Because very often the idea of renunciation comes to us with a sensation of sacrifice. And it's not what it means. It means to renounce suffering and the causes of suffering. And there is joy within it. Because there is meaningful. Because it is meaningful, because it's deep. So there is joy within it. And then, as Lama Tsongkhapa continues, it says, when, by having trained in that way, there is no arising, not even for a second, of attraction for the excellences of cyclic existence, and day and night, the intention seeking liberation arises, then the thought of renunciation has been generated. When I first read this verse, I said, okay, now what I do? It's impossible. Not to think about pleasures, not even for 1 second, and day and night, every moment think about liberation. I'm not able to do that. I was thinking. After reflecting, it took me like 2 years. And I get to a conclusion which helped me a lot. I said, for example, when someone falls in love, when we fall in love with a person, when we fall in love with a situation, with a place, even with ourselves, whatever. When we fall in love, how often do we think about our object of love? Once in a while? Constant. There are some moments that we stop thinking because our mind is busy with other things, but as soon as the space comes, that thought arises again. This is what we need. We need to fall in love with liberation from samsara. We need to fall in love with this state of peace and joy that is free from all our mental defilements. And have this strong and deep wish to, I must do it, I can do it. It's going to take time, yes, but I will make it. And it's a deep sensation. And then when we have this, yes, we have the pleasures of samsara, but we don't really have our full energy in it. We don't really expect happiness to come from it anymore. Okay, I drink something, I like it, nice. But okay, if it's there, if it's not, I enjoy it, sure. But that's not my priority. My priority deeply is to get free from the cycle of samsara, to get free from the cycle of defilements, action, suffering. I don't want it anymore. And I want truly to reach a state of peace, of joy, of satisfaction, of stability, of wisdom, of coherence. That's what I want. So, I put my energy fully in that direction. When I have done that, that's when I have generated this definite emergence, this renunciation. And then when we generate renunciation, that's the very beginning of the path to enlightenment. That's when we have really entered the path. Before that is preparation. We really enter the path when the path becomes the priority. When the objective of liberation and enlightenment becomes a priority in our life. That's when we really enter into the path. Okay? So, renunciation, definite emergence, is essential. And we need to cultivate it. It's not something we generate from one day to the other. We need to gradually think about it again and again and bring it back, and then slowly it will come about. Not something that comes just in one instant. Something that, as we move along, it becomes deeper and deeper, stronger and stronger. And that's what gives us the fuel to follow up and to follow our path. It's so important. Okay? And this is the basis for bodhicitta, for the love towards others, for the great mind of enlightenment. All right, and we're going to see tomorrow morning about bodhicitta. Okay? So we'll conclude here for today. Just like to say that today is also the birthday of Kyabche Trichan Rinpoche. So we'd like to dedicate all the teachings, especially for his long life, especially for the long life of the teachings and the lineage. He's the holder of our lineage, not from this life, but from many, many lives. Like he's the reincarnation of, for example, we have Pandya Atisha, that we have the painting there on my right side, and many other great masters. Anyhow, the fact is that when he came here, many of you could feel how strong it was. And it's not just because of him and his own qualities, sure, but it's because of all that he is from life to life. It's not something coming only from this life. It's like it's taking care and relying upon the Guru, and the Guru taking care of us from life to life. And this is something really, really very special. So we're very fortunate that Kyabche Trichan Rinpoche is now in the West. So this is also good for our own lineage to be kept alive in the present and future, also in this part of the world. So we are very fortunate from that. So we also dedicate our merits, especially for his long life and the long life of his teachings and our lineage. Okay. And then just now after the dedications, we make a few minutes and then we start with the Guru Puja dedicated for his long life. Jetsun lame kutse rapten chi namkar tinle cholchur gepadang losan tempe dreme sasumgi drove munsel tato negur nimo dele tsendele nime kuyan delek shin ninsen takto delek pe Concho sumke chinge lo modrutsu concho sumge trashisho. At dawn or dusk, at night or midday, may the three jewels grant us their blessings. May they help us to achieve all realizations and sprinkle the path of our lives with various signs of auspiciousness.